Every Sunday, side by side at the microphone, from the green light to the speed trap, Chris Switzer and Ray Carino calls them as they sees them, and you better believe them. Here, relevant news, biased opinions, and outright bullshit regarding every aspect of automotive culture. Gasp at mechanical trickery never before revealed over FCC-regulated airwaves. Thrill to the explosive tension as Chris and Ray cuss each other down the track and barrel roll across the finish line, laughing at certain disaster as they shake hands with the devil. All that and much more this Sunday at high noon on the Motormouth Radio Hour. Call in and speak live with the Wizards of Speed and live feed, Chris Switzer and Ray Carino. Bring the whole family. Kids under 12 get in free. Every Sunday at noon on WHPC. Take the Long Island Expressway to the Meadowbrook Parkway and look for the sign saying no parking on the expressway and no express service on the parkway. Go right on Highway 24 to Garden City. $2 all-day parking includes pit pass. Sunday!
Mustang Sally. Guess you better slow your Mustang down. Oh Lord, what I said now.
All right, we're not slowing down anything here on Motormouth Radio today because we have a very special show in store for all of you. I'm your host, Ray Guarino, and I had the occasion to look for a co-host today. So what did I do? I dug into my toolbox, and out came a tool man. So we have with us today MatcoMan Brian. Brian, how are you, brother? Yeah, you gotta make the mouth move so we can.
All right, I'm here. Hey guys.
Go. All right.
Wow.
Brian, thanks for sitting in for Chris. Chris is sitting in somewhere with some action figures down in the South. I think they put some Dagmars on him, and now he's the main attraction at some big, some big place down here. I don't know. We'll find out later on. We'll get the news. We'll let you know.
We'll get the news for sure. That's it. I appreciate it. I'm here.
Yeah, good to have you. You know, of course, as people, well, a lot of people know, a lot of people don't know, we do a Thursday night show together with Lewis Lee, Playing in Traffic, and so we're not strangers to doing a show together, but I'm sure it'll come off nice and seamless. And if now people have the rare occasion they can talk to you on this show, they can call at 516-572-7440 and talk to the tool man. You can ask some tool questions, and boy, I had some tool questions yesterday. I was jammed up a little bit, but it's always good to have those toolbox of, as you were, of either contacts or, friends. And I'll show you something. This is something I'm going to post. I'm way behind on my posts. I was away for a week, and I had the occasion to have to remove wheel studs on my car. And a couple of them were loose. The knurling let go, which I don't know why. And two of them just wouldn't come out. And I was using a ball peen hammer, went to a dead blow hammer, a big, I guess it's probably it felt like it was 48 ounces. The damn thing is heavy. And then I said, oh, screw this. I went to my air gun, the impact hammer with a blunt end, and that wasn't doing it. So I finally moved one a little, and I want to get behind it between the head of that stud and the back of the axle flange with a tool and try and maybe wedge it out. So let's see, Brian, you'll be able to see this. People on, YouTube didn't fire up, but we'll see if we can get it on there. I used one of these tools. It was I don't know if it's a rivet cutter or what.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then something went flying. I heard a ting, ting, ting sound, and boink. It did this. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
Well, that little gold tag on there says Taiwan.
Yeah.
So this is the point. We talk about this on Thursday night. Oh, this is a spot weld cutter. Brand new. It was a brand new tool. But this is what you get when you buy tools that are of that quality. And I don't know, I had it in a tool. I think because I had a set of them that I picked up somewhere, and I think I needed one of the tools, so I took the set, and sacrificial.
Yeah, a lot of times, like you say, you buy the air hammer and and the accessories for that may not be up to par because of the cost. It's all in a price point. You pay big money for a good air tool, but you get some so-so accessories, or vice versa. You pay the money for the accessories, and you have kind of a so-so gun. So it really is all in price point, and they play with you with that. But yeah, that's insane. We were talking last night about that, and that's also hardened steel, and to do some of that stuff, and hopefully when you get really beaten on it, hopefully you didn't bend a flange a little bit or anything like that. You just don't realize when you go crazy and lose your patience and really start beating on stuff, you got to be careful.
You're absolutely right. And I was smart enough at the time to make sure I had impact resistant goggles on, and that chip of metal, we've all had that happen where just a little chip flies. That's all it takes to put you in a hospital. You're in a world of hurt. So you have to be careful. But
it's kind of like lighting the fuse and forgetting to throw the firecracker. You just
right.
We all play around, and you got to be careful. And I after 20 years being on the route, I can't tell you, not going down the road of safety, but you tell the guy it just takes a minute before you ruin a day. And between getting yourself really cut up or getting something stuck in the old eye, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. Now, you fight that every day on your route with guys who, obviously you have guys who are on your truck, so they are buying good tools. But, as you go through the shop, I'm sure you see that, all of us have a collection of tools. We don't always have, I don't know anybody, well, I might know one guy. I don't know anybody except maybe this one guy who has all of one brand of tool. I just don't know it. Maybe the one guy I think I can safely say he does. But so yeah, we all have and just through the years, because if you're doing this long enough, you pick up stuff and you go through your lineage in the car, motorcycle, boat game, or whatever it is. Early on, none of us could afford a lot, so we had to buy. Back then, the big player was Sears. We all went to Sears and bought Craftsman tools. And we were happy to have it. They were, good tools. I still have some Craftsman stuff that works great.
I actually have some Sears stuff. The stuff is stamped Sears, and that's, like you said, it's always kind of funny when somebody looks in my toolbox and they say, "Hey, why do you have this?" And I was like, well, at the time, that's what I had. Or even when I turned wrenches, I may not. I went for a time not having a Snap-on guy or a Mac guy or even a Matco guy. It's just kind of goes in phases or different areas.
Sure. And so I'm sure you see that. You see it all the time. And now, of course, with Harbor Freight, that became the big cheap dog in the bunch. But a lot of that stuff has been coming up. I watched a couple of videos. Our good friend Clay just did another one on the Hercules impact gun that he seems to really like. He says this thing really is performing well. It's got a, and he was kind of alluding to the fact that it looks like somebody else's gun with a different color. So, and then you can say, well, that would make sense why this thing would perform. But hey, their price point, though, is a lot less than that other company. Yeah. So, that good for the consumer, right? I guess, unless you have stock in the...
I'm still not fully 100% into the battery stuff. I still like my Air.
Right.
And, there are times it is great just to walk. You're not attached to a umbilical cord and can't go very far. But, again, it's, the longevity, the Air Tool's where it's at. Mm-hmm. And, the battery stuff does wear out, and unfortunately, when you go to fix it, you're replacing everything, because once you open it up, this is worn, or this is out of spec, or this is close, and again, you're just replacing everything.
Right. Yeah, and I know now I have a good friend who did a lot as a side business. He rebuilt pneumatic equipment for people. he worked at a body shop. He was in the front end of it, but he had a lot of connections, and guys would meet him at like 5 a.m. in like the Wallbaum's parking lot, like with a box of air tools, and he would take them. And then, after work, he'd go home, he'd take them apart, clean them, and through the week, he'd go through them one by one and then meet the guy the next week in the Dunkin' Donuts at 5 a.m. or whatever and, hand off the box and take an envelope of money. And the good thing was, not only did he know how to rebuild them, but he knew how to hot rod them and make them even better. And he did a few for me. And he got out of it a few years ago, and I said, wow, what are you looking to do? You're looking to... Well, he was changing his career and all, too. He didn't know what he was going to do, and he is still working. But I said, you looking to... What's going to happen with the pneumatic stuff? He goes, listen. He goes, now everything's going battery. Guys aren't... My customer base isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you're looking to pass off the torch? Because I would have gone to his house and like apprenticed with him. I mean, I've gone through these things, but he really knew the ins and outs. So by learning from a master, I would have done that, and then I would have taken over for him if he wanted. But he said, no. The other problem is, Ray. He said the parts. Because I can't get the parts. A lot of the guns that these guys are bringing me are made offshore, and the seals. He goes, believe it or not, a shaft seal. It's just it's a metric dimension now, not an American dimension, and you put the other one in and it's going to leak. It's not going to work, or it's going to be too tight. So he said, now we're fighting another battle here. We're fighting the parts battle. And I said, oh man, that's really that sucks.
I have that problem because I had for many years I repair a lot of stuff on the truck, sometimes right there on the spot because I know the guy needs the tool. And it came down to now where, parts are very difficult to come across. And I have to really watch because I'll say, we can take care of this. And then you realize you can't find parts, you can't get anything. And, it really puts you in a bad spot because the guy's expecting to get it back. And, Actually, this week I was really good in saying, I'm really sorry, dude. And they go, what? You fixed it a couple other times. And I'm like, I just don't have parts.
That was then, this was now. So, yeah, you know what? And every tool truck I've ever been on, the tool guy, the tool man is always sitting. There's always a little piece of real estate. Sometimes it's like a foot by a foot, but that's his rebuild bench. And there's usually some drawers under there with a mishigash of parts that nobody else could ever figure out what the heck is in there, and that's where they'll do, ratchet rebuilding or,
Right. Well, actually, like I said, I do a trade-in program, a handful of times, and I get a lot of that old stuff off the street, which is good, but also it gives me a parts base.
Right.
Because on some of the older stuff, the only problem is it's very similar to a car. If a particular car had, let's say, a transmission issue, well, the one that you pull out of the junkyard may have the same transmission problem. So some of the used stuff that I get will have those characteristics and will carry over. So you kind of, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. You're just getting garbage.
Only you had luck with a motor that would have gone to the junkyard that you... that worked out. That story told me yesterday. But yeah, so 516-572-7440. Give us a call. Talk to the tool man. You're right, and I always think of that when people say, I'm going to get a junkyard motor, and I'm like, yeah, some junkyards are good. They'll stand behind it. Now it may be the recycling center. They'll stand behind it and actually give you somewhat of a warranty. Some of them will actually start the motor and demo it for you.
Right.
Which is nice. Because you don't know what you're getting. Speaking of tools, there's another tool I had to use yesterday. It sits in my toolbox in this little piece of real estate. It doesn't get used much. I did try to use it years ago when I do carburetors, and I found it really didn't pay. And it's an inch-pound screwdriver. So let me show you. This is the tool right here.
Yep.
So you really can't see, but there's a little plastic bubble, and when you turn the the dial on the bottom, it's like a tire pressure gauge. You see the numbers run up and down with a center line. That sets the torque spec. And, of course, it's a screwdriver, so when you turn it, it's at 0 now, so, it'll click. It's just a regular torque wrench. And again, that was, that's something that you don't see too much of. But then we get into the specialty tools and stuff like that is definitely not in every toolbox. So much to the point where you forget that you have it. It's like, last time you used that? I don't know, never. But
well, then you go back to the old how many ugga-duggas, right? We'll just
right.
See how tight we can. I think that's tight enough, and sometimes that bites you. So,
well, I'll tell you, when I was working at the shop yesterday, ugga-dugga with the impact hammer on this stud, I wished to the high heavens I was at home instead of at the shop. And this is one time I usually never say that. And the reason is, at home, I have a fairly big compressor. It's an 80-gallon tank, two stage, and I use the 3/8 full flow air fittings.
Oh, yeah.
Even with all of that volume and CFM, my air tools were always very snappy and perky and good. When I went to those fittings, it's like they got supercharged. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And at the shop, we have longer runs of line, and they use the standard 1/4-inch fittings, and I'm like, damn, this could be so much better with the good fittings. So I wish I had more CFM. I don't know if that would have done the job, but I know I'm going to do the other 5 studs at my house. And we'll see. I'll find out. I'll know. So,
Yeah, it definitely the oversized or the bigger. That's why sometimes. And we talked before, on Thursday night about this. There's certain guys that you can tweak the stuff to get a little better performance because they understand the difference. And then there are some guys that you really just. They're dangerous with what they have, so you don't go with the more power. But
kind of case
like I said,
kind of case in point. I found myself yesterday on this stud, and I was literally just going bop, bop, bop. I was giving it single hits. It was like the AR-15 set on single. I didn't put it on full auto, And I figured maybe those single jabs were it's like being in the ring with Mike Tyson. He hits you enough in the kidney, pretty soon you're bleeding internally.
Yeah.
It's going to let go. And then only after that didn't work did I go, all right, and then that didn't work. I was like, God knows how it finally came apart. I don't know, but it did. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always like to start with less is more and then progress. Start with a small. Well, you're not going to start with a 12-ounce ball peen. So you're going to go for a decent 32-ounce at least to start.
Yeah.
And then you go up from there. No sense.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, that was your ride, so you had to get it back together. I mean,
well, that was one case. I actually had Chris in my head because he said to me many times, I'd report on this show that I went to the shop with a car, one of the cars in the family, and had to do a job like struts or I had to do a throttle body or whatever. And he said, "And you took the car that you were working on the car that you had to get home in?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he was like, I'd be like, "What are you so horrified for?" "Well, what if the job didn't work?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm a trained professional. My job, I'll always get the job done." I never really gave it a second thought. I was like, "Yeah, I'm just going to fix it." And in this case, I wasn't there to do that job. I was there to do something else. I found this problem totally by. I don't know if I'd call it a mistake, but we always say, you look at other things when you're doing something else. And with the car raised a couple feet on the lift, I just walked by and just grabbed one of the rear tires, and I felt that it was loose. So I found I had a big issue. That isn't why I was there. I was there to do something else. But in the middle of the job, when I couldn't get those last 2 studs out, I was saying to myself, I thought of Chris and said, wow, what if this car has to stay here? Well, no problem. You can stay in the shop. It's not going anywhere. It's a long weekend. I'm going to thumb a ride home. I got to call my wife. She's at the mall with my daughter. What are they going to tell me? Yeah, we'll be there in about an hour or 2. Anything could have happened, and then you got to think, oh, Christ, now you got to go back and finish. So luckily, the mechanical gods prevailed, and I was able to get it all done. So,
well, that's awesome. Because like I said, definitely had luck on your side because in today's world, you never know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. So what about you? Did you have anything good mechanical this week? I know you're leading kind of.
I do have a little bit of show and tell.
Okay.
I've got filters for the tool truck.
Oh.
These are the fuel filters.
Filter, yeah.
This is the pre-filter, and this is a water separator.
Right.
And the filter up on the engine is this little guy, which I had to wait 3 weeks for.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And
now that housing, the housing that's in, does that thread in, or is that part of another?
Yeah, no, it has a canister that goes over top.
Okay. All right.
And this one is the secondary one. It doesn't get as changed as often as the water separator one.
Right.
This one, I do this one about every 3 months. It's a little overkill, but you just got to be careful.
So
you got to keep it flowing.
So what do you estimate the maintenance cost is to keep the truck going per month with filters and stuff like that?
I don't have that number right up hand.
Okay, because I'm sure those filters aren't cheap.
No, they're not, and especially it's a pain when you got to wait. I mean, I waited 3-4 weeks for the paper one. I do this one at least once a year.
Right.
So on that, and then of course we got the big air filter.
Yeah. I had to do one of them. Being at the shop, I got to work on the tow truck and on the flatbeds, and I never worked on trucks. But I had to do the air filter. I'm looking, it had the flow meter that gave you it would change color. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then when I got the thing open, I'm like, whoa, now this is a filter.
Yeah. Usually, this one I do about twice a year. It doesn't get too bad. I blow them out. They have what's called a air cone.
Okay.
And it's a long blowgun. Right. And instead of having a hole at the end, it has holes coming up the side.
Right.
And that way you can blow out radiators or condensers, which is really a good thing to do. You'd be surprised how much, especially if you're a beach goer and you're down at the beach and you get a lot of sand caked up.
I think that's the tool I saw. Matco Tools had put a video out. I don't know if it was on Instagram or if it might have been on YouTube, where it was a long wand and it looked to have kind of a flat, wide end on it. And
they usually pinch them off. But,
I thought that's where all the work was done, but I didn't realize that it had holes because they showed going between a radiator and a condenser, if you can get in there. I mean, you can't always get in there, but and I remember you saying that was a hot seller, right?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's a really big thing. You'd be surprised, especially on an older car, because they'll say, "Oh, my AC is just not right," and that really, you need that airflow going across because then you get your different temperature, pressure. Yeah. Temperature controls some of the pressure. And the next thing you know, it's not really cooling as well. You're not converting from a liquid to a gas in the condenser. Yeah. And, you blow the air out and you're like, wow, all I did was clean it and there was a big improvement. So
I'll tell you the truth. It was a little while ago, a couple of years ago when I was working and my wife was complaining, we need a new vacuum cleaner. I'm like, why? This one's fairly new. It's not picking up anything anymore. It's crap. I said, well, let me take a look at it. No, we're just going to go buy new. I said, don't go anywhere. Don't buy anything. So this new one we have is kind of a cyclonic one. It has 3 filters in it. So I took the canister out, of course, dumped that. But there was a foam filter, there was a paper filter, and, man, they were clogged. So I took them outside, got the air blower, got behind, blow from the backside out. My driveway looked like there was a dust explosion. Yep. Brought it in, and she's like, wow, what'd you do? I'm like, I cleaned the filters. So now that I'm home, every time I hear the vacuum, she's running it, I'll grab it afterwards, take it apart. Most times, not every time, and clean those filters. Makes a big difference.
I do that. The girls are out and down in Florida. They're seeing Mickey, and so when that happens, those are the little things that nobody knows what we do when we're alone.
But the elves are home.
I pull the refrigerator out from the wall, and I blow the coils out and clean. And like I said, it really makes a difference. And I don't know if it's just psychological. but it's like you can even hear the difference.
Yeah.
In the motor or in the thing starting, it's like, oh, it's not as struggling, or it's so much better. So
I did that a couple of years ago, and we live in I'll send you pictures. I'll show you. We live in a clean house. We're not in a slumber. I mean, it's not anything. You wouldn't walk in and go, ew, what the hell? Who the hell lives here? It's not. So I had to pull the stove out to do something. I forget what. And in only a couple of years, I'm like, oh my God, the stuff that got behind that stove, between cat hair and Bic pens and lotto cards and gold bricks and Matco wrenches, all sorts of stuff that just falls out of your pocket.
Your either that's where the 10 millimeter goes socket, or your pocket screwdriver that you lost. So
exactly. But I tell you that I did have the refrigerator out a couple of years ago because we actually had to have the compressor changed. It went bad, and now the newer refrigerators have a totally flat back. You don't see the coils anymore. They're kind of so that's good. They took something that needs to exchange heat and they put it behind a flat panel. Do you think that's planned obsolescence? I was going to drill 1,000 holes in the thing to give it airflow.
Somebody figured out, okay, we can cover this up, and they'll get 4.5 years instead of 10 years and they'll be right out of warranty, and we'll go.
Right. Perfect example. I was complaining to the guy who was there about it, and he said, wow, you got 9 years out of this? You're doing really good. I'm like, 9? I said I should have had 30. I tell you what we do. We have a phone call. Let's go to the phone, go to the phone, and say hi. You're on with the Motor Mouths.
Good afternoon. It's Tom from Massapequa.
Hey, Tom, you're on with Ray and Brian.
Hey
Tom, how you doing?
Great. And you're the MatcoMan?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, my regards to Chris wherever he is today, and I wanted to update you guys a couple of things. Number one, this call is for Bob in Rockville Center, so we could open one.
Okay.
And I bought a Honda Accord Hybrid Sport. I got 1,000 miles on it, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, you told us that 2 weeks ago that you got the car and why you picked that. I think that's a great idea. Brian, he chose the Honda because you can actually charge it if you need be.
Yep, I heard this phone. I heard the conversation. Tom,
when you charge that car, you can do it off regular house current, correct, with a regular cord?
Well, I might have misled you. The Honda Hybrid is there's no plug-in. That was the Toyota Prius.
Oh.
That was a plug-in. The Hybrid just recharges itself upon braking or deceleration.
Yeah, regenerative braking. Okay, because, I was going to ask you a hard question anyway. I was going to ask you if you knew what the charging current is on the Charger, but I guess that's a moot point now.
No. I have no idea, but I'll tell you, I'm getting 44.5 miles per gallon.
Wow.
And I'm happy with that. And the majority of the driving have been a highway, and highway on a hybrid gets worse mileage than local. Did you guys know that?
Did not know that. Why is that, Tom?
I think it's because in the local driving, it uses the battery mode more often, and in highway mode, it uses the gas motor.
Okay, well,
That's my understanding.
Well, I guess the way you'd know is if you, at the rate that you have to put gas in it.
Yeah.
How big of a tank? How much gas does it hold? What's the capacity?
I'm not sure, but the range is 550 miles in a tank, roughly.
Okay, but it's
unbelievable.
Excellent, nice. And we see now you've been all over the place because on Instagram you're putting up pictures from every place you go, which is there's Tom everywhere. Holding a drink, holding a flower, holding a bucket of chili, and it's like.
Oh, I do it I have friends all over the country and some in the Far East, and I do it just to share different, like New York City, Long Island, the beach, different places, because with my work I get to travel different places.
Right. Ah, very good. Well, good luck with that hybrid.
Hey, can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
And you may not know it, but I'd like to learn more about it. I own my cars 10-plus years.
Uh-huh.
Gasoline-powered car, all I have to worry about is the mechanics of the motor working, And if we don't have, I don't drive a lot of miles typically, so I'm not typically worried about the motor or transmission. However, now with the hybrid, there's new complexity to long-term ownership. I have not explored it. I'm wondering if my long-term liabilities might be increased because of the hybrid, if you know where I'm going with that.
Well,
because of the motor and the parts.
I think the biggest liability down the road is going to be the life of the battery, just like with an EV, I would assume.
Yeah, that's my thought, and I did not explore. If any of your listening audience or Joe D, I know Joe D is into the latest supernatural technologies, like an astronaut.
Yeah.
Maybe if someone comes up with some info, I'd love to learn it about the long-term liability, because maybe with this car, because of that, maybe I'll sell it after 5 years if the liability gets really, projectedly worse or something.
Right. Well, we'll keep our ears to the battery cells, and if we hear something, we'll let you know, Tom.
Have a wonderful day. Love your show. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Tom. Bye-bye.
Well, the big problem, Ray, is when the battery goes bad, because that's like $5,000.
Sure. Now, on an EV, I know that's the case, but I wonder on the hybrid if it's the same.
It's the same.
Okay. All right. Because
you have the big battery pack. You still have a battery. You have a small battery in the back that's usually for the startup.
Yeah.
For the starter, and then you have a battery pack still in the car. And my father-in-law, he's got a Prius, and he had it. He still has it. He has one of the first generations, but it came down. I think it was like can't really hold me to this, but it was 10 years or something, and it needed a battery.
Yeah.
And, he was, he's an old school, nuts and bolts. And it's like, I could fix this. And, it was $5,000 for a battery pack.
Yeah, not fixing that.
And you're like, and of course, then it comes like, well, the car has, 200,000 miles on it. How long is the motor going to last, or the transmission, or
sure.
Do I just, junk it? And that's the biggest problem. Of course, I told him this way. I said, you've gone this long and you haven't, it's not like you've gone through brakes and all the other maintenance stuff, because it's easier on that. So if you saved the money that you would have spent, you would have had the money.
Right.
We don't work that way.
No.
None of us work that way.
I'll tell you a good thing. One of the guys I started watching, he's going to be a guest in the studio next month, Wrenching with Kenny. I've told you about him. I think I've sent you some of his videos. He just did a video on might have been a Silverado. It was a pre-chip key truck. So it had to be very early 90s or late 80s. Well, it was amazing. The thing, it just kind of failed. And he did it in two parts. He found the airbag module under the driver's seat had literally corroded. And that's the picture he used for the video, which I didn't know. I just thought I was looking at a bunch of corrosion. The whole module literally just corroded. You could see the heads of capacitors in there. It just was destroyed. And the main ECM connector was totally gacked up inside with corrosion and all. He cut it out, got a new connector, spliced the wires, and he did something on the video yesterday I thought was brilliant, that a lot of guys who do wiring and get into a project don't know. You can't know this until you've done it. A lot of guys will cut, let's just say, I don't care if you have 2 wires or if you have, 20 wires. They all get cut at the same length. Now you splice them in, and now you want to wrap them. Now you have this boa constrictor thing in a wiring harness. So Kenny went to the point of saying, listen, cut these at different lengths so that your bulges are in different spots, so when you finally wrap it, it's only a little bit bigger than. So that was a great pro tip.
Yep, I learned that even with the old Mustang. One time I did, of course, I did some wiring, and of course you had that big knot, looked like a snake had eaten an apple.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't put the door seal plate back on.
Yep.
So then, I'm driving around with this. Now this part's not on the car anymore, and you're It just barrel rolls and makes a bigger mess.
I kind of learned that when I worked in electronics, where you had to do things and it had to go back into a tight spot. I learned always cut those wires. I always go like 3 inches apart. So now those splices are just. I do it for another reason too, so that just in case the shrink wrap tubing or whatever you use it, just in case for some wild chance that stuff wore out, now you don't have 2 wires that are going to rub. Electrical connectors are going to rub on each other bare, which is a worst case scenario, never going to happen thing. But if it did happen, it would be your fault. Just stagger them.
I had learned when I was at the dealership, we had problems with broken wires, like in door hinges or trunk areas, and I learned from seeing previous repairs, a lot of guys would fix it right at that spot.
Right.
So that was still in a bat, and instead I got myself trained or learned to make a longer pigtail or fit repair and fix it inside the car so that you had a new wire where it was bending,
right?
Versus having it where it was tied together or clipped or whatever, because a lot of times they would come back and they were broken in the same spot. And
exactly.
You can only cut it so many times, or you have less and less space.
Well, I'll tell you what happens in the same spot every week here. It's the bottom of the hour, so we need to take our break. And without Chris to do the honor group of the hour, I'm going to take it up on the fly. I think the honor group of the hour, do you have an idea, Brian? Anything coming to your mind for what the honor group should be?
Unfortunately, no, Ray, but I did think about it earlier.
Oh, okay.
And,
I got something that's just kind of like, let's make the honor group of the hour guys who shop on tool trucks. If you don't want to go out and buy cheap tools, you want something better, and you don't want to wait for the mail all the time, and you find a tool truck, or you have one at the shop you work at, or a lot of guys don't. A lot of guys don't work at shops, but even when I wasn't affiliated with the shop, I always had friends who were, so I would ask them, hey, listen, can you see the tool guy and get this warranted for me, or get this for me off the tool truck? We all know somebody. If you do that, if you'll go the extra mile and buy the good brand tools from the tool man, you're in the honor group of the hour this week. So, and Chris isn't. I know that he's not in the honor group of the hour, but that's okay because it's not his honor group, it's ours. So let me tell you that Mondays at 3:30, you may want to listen to Instruction Discussion. It's an all around the world. Children and young adults are attending schools, and educational decisions are being made, impacting those children. That was a terrible sentence. You have questions regarding those decisions. Instruction Discussion has the answers. Kevin Boston Hill talks with education experts to provide strategies to help our children succeed. Don't be late. Class begins Mondays at 3:30 on this fine station. And I must say that I have to do the weather. And your WHPC weather forecast, powered by Pantanos, with locations in Hewlett, Uniondale, Garden City Park, Freeport, and now in Levittown. We have cloudy skies. It's been in and out. I don't know if you got the smoke today. We had it yesterday, Brian. It's going to be like a high of 81, but it's going to be that kind of cloudy 81. I did Cliff's Car Show review. I left the GTO home today. I left it in the garage. I did take my Impala, though, so I took that out because I have to repark it in case it rains. I'm not really worried about it. Tonight, mostly cloudy with possible thunderstorms, low 71, and hopefully it'll be nice where you are. So,
yep, I'm looking out my big bay window, and it's partly cloudy and 81, very muggy, and we no longer smell like Canadian bacon down here. So the wind has shifted, and the smoke is gone.
Excellent. With that in mind, let's go to one of our favorite perennial car driving songs. We all, I can't tell you how many 69 Camaros had this written across the tail section back in the day around here. I don't know, Brian, we'll check with you after the break and we'll see if you agree. And we'll do a couple spots. We'll be back. Ray Guarino, MatcoMan Brian on WHPC 90.3 Motormouth Radio. Back in a minute.
Let the Motor Mounts help you out at 516-572-7440.
This show on 90.3 WHPC is brought to you by CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision, with 2 locations in Limerick and Oceanside, who remind you that New York state law says you always have the right to choose which shop will fix your car. CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision offers a full range of services, 24-hour towing between Montauk and Manhattan, shuttle service, and they can help you with a rental car arrangement if needed. All repairs include the CarStar Lifetime Nationwide Warranty, ensuring that the experts at Celebrity Chase Collision are always on your side.
Y sí, hablamos español.
More information is available at 516-593-0920 or online at celebritychasecollision.com.
You're listening to the Motor Mouth.
Hey, Ray and Chris.
Did you guys read my mind?
Okay, I appreciate you having me on.
Wow, you guys finally figured it out.
Motor Mouth.
This is great. No more foolishness.
I miss my cousins.
You're a funny guy. I've been waiting for Sunday just to ask you guys this question.
Our trained staff of 2 will help.
Well, good afternoon, guys. I need a little advice.
All right, so you got me to call in. All right.
I don't know everything. You know, you guys are mechanics.
You guys have a great show. Thank you very much. I come with a tale of woe and a warning for the younger guys.
Chris is doing jumping jacks. He's getting ready. Ray is right behind me.
Every time I get off the air, I think,
Motor Mouth.
oh boy, they're never going to ask me back after that one.
Yeah, this is a collect call. How are you?
Quite frankly, there are better things to do with your time.
Oh, I probably called the wrong number. I was trying to get a hold of Ray. And I wake up screaming.
So I'm very happy to listen to your good advice.
Yeah, I want to know what the is wrong with my car.
You know, break it down for us call guys. All right, see you next weekend.
Motor Mouth.
I know you guys usually speak Guido,
Right.
and now you're talking Pintel and Yiddish, and this morning I happened to listen to the rabbi on your station. So it's all, you know, I guess today's Yiddish then.
Right.
There are answers, sometimes correct ones, and we may have them.
Motor Mouth Radio, 90.3 FM, WHPC.
Motor Mouth.
Hey, you, get over here. Every Sunday, 12 to 1, you are going to tune in to hear the Motor Mouths, my friends Ray Guarino and Chris Switzer. 90.3 FM, WHPC. You might learn something.
And there we go. We learned you can hear the beginning of the song again if it times out. That means the time on that CD was wrong. I thought I had plenty of time. But I'll tell you else what we do have time for. We do have time, Brian, for another phone call. So on Motor Mouth Radio, let's go back to the phones and the fun and say hi. You're on with the Motor Mouths, Ray and Brian.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Ray. How are you guys doing?
Hey, Bob. How are you?
Hey, guy. How you doing, Bob?
We're doing well. You guys are a real pleasure. So I had a question. One is I want to thank Tom for calling in. So that's a bonus.
Oh yeah.
And
Always.
The question to Brian is, Brian, did you, without divulging too much information, are you west coast of Florida?
No, I'm in Maryland. I'm in the D.C. area. I'm about 30 miles from Ground Zero, and I'm in the Silver Spring, Maryland area.
Okay.
You can
either way,
you can find me. You can find me. Sorry, what was that?
No, it's all good. Either way, we enjoy your input.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now you can follow me along on Facebook or Instagram at Hey MatcoMan, and get in touch with me anytime.
I tell you, Bob, you were a phone call away, man. If I had your number on my phone, I would have called you to come co-host, but I said, hey, listen, I have to get Brian because I can't get a hold of Bob.
That's very thoughtful. Thank you. Well, perhaps I could do a guest shot someday.
Yeah, you know what? Rob does that with his show. I think we should do that too. Right. I have no problem.
That would be nice. I wish you guys a very happy, was it 247 years, right?
Yes, that's correct.
247 years. Who would have thought we could be that blessed?
Maybe in another 247 we'll get it right. I don't know.
We're working on it.
Come on, Ray. Let's not go there.
Yeah, I know. All right, good enough.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bob. All right, so look, good old Bob. Brian, that's great that you had the 69 Camaro Hot Wheels, of course, because, am I right? I mean, did you see that by you? Did everybody with a 69 Camaro call the car Highway Star or what?
Well, there was a few, but Yeah, that was one of them.
Yeah.
Or the other one, of course, is heavy metal or heavy Chevy or all the those group of words always seem to go with those cars.
Did you ever have a name on any of your cars?
No, I never had a name on one. No.
Okay. Yeah, neither did I.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
I never got that far.
Right.
They all had names. Some were normal names, and some we can't talk about. It's funny though. And even to this day, even those older cars that you no longer have, those names come up, and you know what you're talking about. So it's funny.
For sure. Something that we were talking about, I want to mention this because I want to post it so that this way I can legitimately say, as we talked about on the show, I told you yesterday how when I first put my Pontiac together, I had an issue with Moroso wheel studs. And I was looking for lug nuts. I needed a lug nut yesterday to replace one of the ones I lost. And I thought I got rid of these things, but I'll tell you something. I had a bag, and in the bag were these Allen-headed. You can see the size of the Allen head.
Yeah.
And I had to cut them. So you'll see it better in the post. This is the stud. You can see how it wore down?
Yep.
All right, so this thing really wore down. This is the one that
on the wheel cylinder.
Trying to hold a piece of paper while you do this so you can see. Yeah, it literally just kind of arced its way in a perfect arc as the wheel stud was backing out. So I'm going to post that later because I, like an idiot, I saved these things, and you can see the welds that I welded on and then ground off. It really bolsters Chris's argument that go with what the factory did. Stock is always best. And I think of Chassis John, our good friend Chassis John, who always said, and we have it on the promo, stock stinks. That's why it ever, and I've always been an aftermarket guy because I believe, yes, the factories and stock stuff is phenomenal, especially through the performance years. But the aftermarket picked up where the factory left off because they either couldn't go somewhere or they just didn't need to go that extravagant, and the aftermarket could do that. But I will say I've been bit by aftermarket parts a few times.
Yep, no, and that's true. And the only thing that I can say, or my experience with that, is there was some point of time when they tried to make everything fit everything. So aftermarket became so much of trial and error and trying to make it fit, instead of, even though if it said, hey, it fits your GTO or it fits your Mustang, you realize it's one part that they're trying to make fit different cars. And that's the headache.
Like I told you yesterday, I was at the shop and I needed these wheel studs. Now, they just press in, 7/16 20 wheel studs. Nothing odd about them. I called a parts store, and this is how divorced I am from newer cars. I work on them occasionally, and I have them in the house, but, it's not my ballywick. I don't do it every day to the point of, like the guys in your shops do. And when I called the guy and said I need 5 7/16 by 2-inch studs, and he says, what's the application? And I said, okay, is this, what color is the car kind of thing, And I said, well, listen, it's a 65 Pontiac, but that doesn't matter. I said, these studs were used in everything, up right through this, probably right up into the 80s when they went to metric studs. And I said, so there's your application range. And I never thought that there may be more than one stud. So he said he had 2. And he asked me what size. I gave him the thread size and the length. So he pulled one out and he says, what's the dimension of the knurled end on your stud? And I said, oh, wow. So let me go in the shop and get one. Let me get my caliper. I said, the problem is the knurling. They spun, so the knurling wore down. But I gave him, I said, I got 450 thousandths. I said, so I'm going to guess it's around 5, probably around 5 somewhere, 480. I don't know. He goes, I got one that was 5 and change, and another one that was 7 something. I said, well, that's probably too big. Maybe that's a truck stud. So he says, well, I'll send both. I said, good, send both. So it ended up being the first one. And I just never thought. Like, you go in, you used to go and say, give me a cap and rotor. For what? For a GM or for a Ford or for a Chrysler. And the guy, I was a parts man. I knew what to give you. Now it's like, well, what engine? What's, what year? Like, it's just a cap and rotor or it's just a wheel stud. But apparently not. So that kind of gave me a little bit of cause to think and reflect on the parts issue these days. And I even told the guy, I don't know how old or young he is. I said, listen, I saw he was a little confused. I said, it's just like a new car where you have a hub with studs. They come installed. I said, so these are the studs that you can just press in and, bang out and press in, trying to help him along a little bit. And then, he got it right. And he sent me I even hate to say it, but I said to him, listen, Dorman has a listing for this. I said, I don't have the part number. I should have looked it up first, but that's what he sent me was Dorman studs.
Well, this is where we make our mistake, Ray, because even though that you were scared at the very beginning, because when he started saying, what's the application and all this, but this is where we usually get ourselves in trouble. We give out too much information where then all of a sudden the guy's like, okay, well, this is what you asked for, and that way. Because I'm pretty sure when he looked in the book, and I know back when I was a parts guy, the station wagon had a different, station wagon was a little bit more heavy duty or before you got into truck stuff. Right. So that's why you were probably surprised that they had so many different listings.
Right.
But, I see this all the time when people come in saying, that's why sometimes the guy makes a mistake in diagnosing, because somebody comes in and they think they're giving out the right information or enough information, but they give out the wrong, just send them in the wrong direction instead of just letting him do his job. But it's a process.
See, that's the problem. Guys like us who've been in the game a while, had been a parts guy, I don't trust them. I don't trust that this guy's going to, I've done it in the auto parts store by my house. I have the ability to go behind that counter and look in the parts books. I can do it. I can go in the back and pick my stuff. They know. And really, it's not because I know more than those guys. The feeling is, all right, listen, you're doing a project. You're finding some MacGyver stuff. Go do it on your own, and we'll just bill you out when you're done. Just tell me what you want. Well, it's easier for them not to get involved. And it's good for everybody, so it works. But,
no, very true. Very true.
Funny stuff. So I got to ask, because I know people ask me all the time about movement on Mustang movement. Have things been even garage cleaning? I know you've been working on. I know you've been working on that too.
Yeah, I've been trying to make more room or have more room so that I can work in the garage with it. And like I told you, and I got some engine cradles, and I got my engines up off the floor. I had 2 small block Fords, and I've got a couple Porsche motors that I need to do something with. But just getting stuff back and organized. A few years back, I didn't have a storage unit, so I was using the garage as storage,
right,
for tools and toolboxes and stuff like that. And that really kind of jammed everything up. And just trying to get back to a working shop again. Project Audi's coming along. I got the gas tank out, and I've been cleaning on that, and it's soaking right now.
What are you soaking it with? What's the mixture?
Actually, I mixed Varsol and some
Granddad's cough syrup.
Yeah, and so I got that soaking. There's a wire mesh screening in it, and everybody's told me I'm going to have to cut it open and pull it out. And I'm trying my best, or I'm really trying. I don't want to cut the gas tank to do that. I do have the ability to weld. I mean, I can weld it back up. It's just trying to prevent one more thing down the road.
Well, just for the heck of it, did you look around to try and find, a yard that may have one sitting around that's usable?
I looked, and I can't find anything.
Okay.
And actually, it was kind of funny, and I had to restrain myself because I did find another Quattro and it could have been a parts car.
Oh yeah, right. Got to watch that.
And I can't have that. I don't have space, room, or I'm already the wanted man in the house. I have the most cars and none of them run. So
that's what your wife needs to see when she comes home. Like, oh, what's that? What's that tarp in the backyard? Firewood, hon. We're laying in for the winter. Right.
Yeah, that's very true. So, but those are coming along. I'm hoping to just to gear up a little more on that. But it's slowly but surely. As long as I work on it, I'm happy.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely.
It'll eventually get done.
A project doesn't have to move at lightning speed to be fulfilling. Just knowing that you're doing something, it feels good because you think about all the times you didn't do anything, and now hey, I'm making some progress. Yeah. So that's good. I just have to. I think last week I had actually 5 bags of trash out. That just stuff that I don't know why I'm even holding on to it anymore. Right.
And that's pretty bad, or that's incredible to get rid of that stuff. So
yeah. No, I'm with you. I can match your bags of trash. No problem. No problem.
Yeah, we almost had the backgrounding of the office downstairs, and but like I said, I've kind of converted the upstairs here as the office since the girls are out of town. So.
Yep. Oh heck yeah. And the kitchen cabinets look nice, much nicer.
It looks a little more legit, right?
Yeah, it's nice. Then again, the basement office, that's home. It is the home office as we call it. So that's
very true.
Nice. So what's up this week with the Matco on the truck? Did they have specials? What was up? And I know you haven't been really pushing the flyers 100% because of availability.
Actually, this week starts make any purchase and get a 10 millimeter socket, 1/4 inch. I've got about 100. This is where I went around and stole everybody's 10 millimeter socket that I'm going to give back to them.
Watch out for those engraved ones, though.
Yeah, so we're like I said, we got a promo with the 10 millimeter sockets. I'm also we have a Matco app.
Right.
Upload and download on the app, get a socket, and hopefully just keep moving along.
That's it. Good.
I've got a handful of stubby 1/2-inch drive impacts that comes with stubby sockets, 1/2-inch drive, 10 to 24. Wow. We got a good deal on that on the truck, and
I'll tell you this: I did buy a Milwaukee stubby 3/8, and man, that thing gets into some spots you wouldn't think it would get in. It is really a good tool to have.
Yes.
Even working at home, I was working on my dryer, and I had to get in and like that gun got in there. I was like, yeah, this is what I like. It's good. Good deal.
So we got a few things going, and hopefully everybody will know what day it is on Wednesday after this crazy holiday.
Right. We'll see about that.
Always in the middle of the week kind of screws everybody up. They don't know if they're coming or going.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to be going now that you said it. So, Brian, thanks for coming in this week. I appreciate you doing the co-hosting duties for Chris. So does Chris, I'm sure. And
anytime.
And we'll see you again on Thursday night on Playing in Traffic. I'll be back next week with Chris on more Motormouth Radio. Brian, take us out. What do we say before we get out of here? The people waiting for me in the parking lot.
Don't follow us home.
Unless you have
you can follow us online.
Unless you got lug studs. All right. Ray Guarino for MatcoMan Brian. Motormouth Radio, 90.3 WHPC. Out. See ya.